where Kenyans are waiting with bated breath to see what the president has in store to ensure that we contain COVID-19. That's not all we have lined up for you this morning.
Absolutely. It's been 21 days and therefore we're expecting a review. And in line with that, we shall be discussing the 21 days later status of COVID-19 containment at the county level, whereby the governors shall be meeting the president just to see where they are, how they're able to contain it, and whether or not we shall lock or get into a lockdown or not, as one of the papers is saying this morning. But also shall be focusing on the Nairobi County and that leadership tussle to see why and how this can be unfolding in the future as we go along with that being in place, while at the same time we're having a county being the epicenter of the COVID-19 pandemic, and why the COVID-19 pandemic is not a priority, that and much more. But we also encourage you to be a part of the conversation by answering the question that we're asking you as our Twitter poll this morning. And this is the question: should the president reimpose some of the COVID-19 containment measures that had been lifted? Should the president reimpose some of the COVID-19 containment measures that had been lifted? Remember, he said that would look at this with a keen eye as the country, if the numbers continue to spike, which they have, with yesterday recording the highest number ever, 960 new cases within 24 hours. The promise was that we would have to re-look at some of those measures that had been removed. So what's your thought? Do you think this is about time? If the COG, that's Wycliffe Oparanya, is anything to go by, he says that we should not have the lockdown or partial lockdown reintroduced. But what are your thoughts? The hashtag is KTN Morning Express. If you'd like to tweet, it's, well, she is at Trixie Ngado. I am at Michael G. Gitonga. Let's hear what your take is on this. And of course, we're going to be reading your comments as we go along with the show as we have this discussion. But first, would like to start by looking at what we have on the dailies this morning. And we are joined by Canon Ambrose Weda to just go through what is making headlines on the dailies this morning. And the start is the Standard, as usual, where we have no rest for Raila. That is the headline on the Standard this morning: no rest for Raila. We do know that he had gone for surgery not too long ago, and according to this article, he was to come back and at least take 3 weeks off to ensure that he has recuperated fully. But that doesn't seem to be happening given the political intrigues that are taking place. So, Canon Weda, no rest for Raila. Looking at what's happening, it looks like he'll have to weigh in on some of the things that are taking place.
Thank you so much. I really don't think the headline is appropriate. Why do I say so? We wish Honorable Raila a very quick recovery, but he will continue resting. If he wants Honorable Rengo and the team to back the Division of Revenue bill, he doesn't even need to do anything. All he needs to do is to whisper to one of his people that Baba is saying back the bill. And you'll see these people jumping up and down and say, how deep does Baba want us to? But it's not about him trying to meet and do many things. These people will play his bidding as he deems it. So it's just a question of maybe the president or somebody asking and saying, Baba, can you back this bill? And then can you tell Honorable Borengo to tell the rest that we are moving this direction?
Perhaps the no rest is more leaning towards the fact that whichever decision they make, it is bound to have repercussions, particularly on what has been happening. We've seen the majority whip, Senator Irungu Kangata, almost threatening and saying, should the revenue bill not be passed, then we might as well pull out of the BBI, which of course sounds a little bit like a threat, don't you think?
Yes, I think we must give it to our younger brother, Senator Kangata. I think it is just lack of tact and therefore lack of words and therefore using threats. These are things that he could easily have done without issuing threats. So what he spoke about looked like threats, and then it appeared like now BBI is Honorable Raila's baby, and it can be used to threaten him. I also saw Honorable Burudinga also issuing all manner of epithet over things they don't understand. They don't understand the intricacies of the handshake, what it is all about, where it is going. So somebody wakes up and says, oh, BBI, if you don't give us this, we give you BBI. Division of Revenue Bill is a constitutional requirement that has to be done, and it is to be done in the best interest of Kenyans. BBI also, there is the president and Honorable Raila who are also trying to push it down our throat. I really don't think Raila on his own would do it. So if the Honorable Kalangata decided to apply proper manner of whipping people, it would still work. I'm telling you, it takes just a phone call from the president to Honorable Raila, and then all these people will be singing and jumping and saying, Your Excellency, this is the best division of revenue bill in the sub-Saharan Africa. But if let's say the president will say, I don't like it, the Honorable Raila will say, I don't like it, you'll hear these people saying, how could we draw something like this? So the power is with the two gentlemen.
The two gentlemen. Yes. But there's a lot of politics being played behind the scenes, because one would imagine anything that would bring more revenue to the counties, particularly to those that are disadvantaged and have been marginalized, would be one that all would be in agreement in. But what is the backroom, the backroom politics that may be playing in this in regards to the revenue allocation bill?
I think there has been, if you look at the way the money was being divided, it's being divided in various portions. There is about 25% that is shared equally among the 47 counties. That is going to be reduced by, I think, about 1%. There's also a percentage that is given to counties that are big in terms of geographical area. That is going to be reduced. And they're increasing a portion on the basis of population. Now, that basically means, if you are talking about on the basis of population, then it means you are going to give the rich counties more. You are going to give Kiambu more, you are going to give Kakamega more, you may give Kisumu more, and you will deny Kwale, Wajir, Lamu, and that is where the push and the pull is coming from. If you look at this bill, I've looked at it, it's a fairly good bill. I don't understand why they're yapping. They should be able to say, look, equalization fund should be also increased so that it covers the parts. But if we are going to push a lot of money just because of land mass, I really don't think.
All right, we'll get into the details of what you really feel and why you think maybe the difference between those bills in the next segment, where we're going to be looking at the way it is with tricks. But let's move on to another story here on page 4, where it says ODM denies pre-election deal between Raila and Kalonzo. Now, it was on the dailies yesterday, Kalonzo Musyoka saying that they have a deal that is separate from NASA between ODM and the Wiper Democratic Party. But the SecGen, Sifuna, has come out to say that they're not aware of any such pact. Question is, why would Kalonzo make such allegations and claims in public if really there is no pact between the two?
I think let's understand the difference between ODM, Wiper, and the difference between Honorable Raila and Honorable Kalonzo. There are times Honorable Raila and Honorable Kalonzo, they talk as leaders, and that may be Honorable, my younger brother Sifuna, who came in late as Secretary General of ODM, may not know, but he's fast as a young man to deny and to do things. I remember posting I saw this on social media. I also said, please respect Honorable Kalonzo. If you do what we call conjecture, just assuming, throwing things in the air, could Honorable Kalonzo have been Honorable Raila's running mate without some form of understanding?
It's not possible. Well,
not possible. So they must have said, look, go become president, then you back me to be president. Or you go, if you don't get it, then you also back me. That is simple, straight. So when Kalonzo talks about there could have been something, there was something. It is only that Raila may have shot the last bullet, but he still wants to pick another one and shoot. So they want to throw Honorable Kalonzo under the bus. But I think it must have been, you don't get it this time, you back me next time. That, I think, is what Honorable Kalonzo is talking about. And when he talks about it, it should be for Honorable Raila himself or his spokesperson like Daphne Sonyango saying, no, this is not. It's not for party, because the party to deny. The party doesn't know.
But
Yes.
then, wouldn't that then mean that even how the parties are run is questionable by virtue of the fact, if the Secretary General is not in the picture of such a pact, then how then is it part of the party? How then is it a party decision?
You should know that the parties we are talking about are individuals. We are not talking about a party as an institution. We are talking about individuals. If you talk about Honorable Raila, we are talking about ODM. And if today he was to declare that he's in the handshake party of Kenya, ODM will just die on his own. That is the same as Jubilee. If President Uhuru and Honorable William Samoei Ruto were to wake up and say, now we are in the handshake, you could see that these parties will die. So when they discuss these things, they discuss and then they translate it into the party. When they say Tosha, they say Tosha first. Then they say, now this Tosha is going to be put in which vehicle? They decide it will be NAC, it will be NK, it will be LDP. That is how it works. So today, Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga and Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta, they just sat on their own one day, and then they said handshake. And then they tell the parties, now it is handshake, follow it or you are dumb. It was not the other way around, parties meeting. So what I'm saying is that the individuals are the parties, and those parties, therefore, the Secretary Generals, those are pawns in the game that they may never understand. If Honorable Raila was to come and say, yes, I agreed with my brother Kalonzo on something, but I'm changing my mind. It is not about a party issue. It is about individual integrity and the promises they make to each other, which they know they break anytime they want to break them.
Absolutely. And, well, we'll wait and see how those intrigues play. And, of course, in Kenyan politics, we've learned not to say too much too early, because what individuals say may turn around to be something totally different at a different case. But there you go on page 4 of the Standard. ODM denies a pre-election deal between Raila and Kalonzo Musyoka. COVID-19, of course, has been a big thing and continues to be, and it's on page 5 of the Standard. Record cases as president set to revise restrictions. And that brings me to the question that we're asking, and we'd like to hear what your take is. Should the president reimpose some of the COVID-19 containment measures that had been lifted? That's a question we're asking. We'll be reading through what your thoughts are on that. Today is when the president is expected to give that presidential address and, of course, give us direction as a country. But we are looking at an increase in the number of positive cases. This was expected, but maybe let me start first of all with your thoughts, Canon Weda, on what you feel that possibly the president needs to do.
I think so far the prediction that the cases will increase was done much earlier. It is scientific. The scientists actually told us our peak will be in August, going September. Now it has been predicted so in America, in Britain, and it works. So ours is still coming. But due to pressure and reorganization, people are allowed to move. It may be necessary for the president to add in some restrictions so that we are safer. Not necessarily a lockdown, but something that will reduce infections in our means of transport. Our means of transport, I think, is the highest level. I can see the church has become very cautious, and therefore it is not a weak point. But there is need to ensure that some order is put in place to reduce the trend. It is very chilling when we hear that.
We have 960 cases over 24 hours, which of course brings into question how Kenyans are treating this. And it has been said and repeated so many times that really the responsibility is not so much on government as it is on us as individuals to ensure that we do what we need to do. But that hasn't changed anything. And I don't think the numbers have changed the mentality of Kenyans. Do you think that then there needs to be a stronger enforcement method that should be brought in place?
Oh, definitely. I'm telling you, God himself regretted creating man at one point, and he wanted to destroy the whole of them. So there are restrictions, there are rules that you put, and then they are enforced. Some people are suicidal in their conduct. They know what is right, and they want to do the wrong thing. I see people when you drive around, I see people greeting each other like nothing has happened. And they are not greeting close friends who have been lost. They are greeting strangers. And some people, they greet you, and when you say, surely it has been said we don't greet, they feel very bad. So there's, some of these people have to be enforced. I'm told that even when sugar was brought into Africa, some people had to be forced, their mouths opened, and then sugar is put. Then now they love sugar so much. Even medicine. We don't swallow medicine because we love it and we do whatever. It is forced into us. There are certain restrictions which will have to be enforced. And it should begin with the leaders who are yapping around and calling all sorts of unnecessary meetings. These are the ones that should be arrested, locked in, some of them kicked around. Then the smaller man and woman will know that if Senator so-and-so and Minister so-and-so has faced the
full
weight,
wrath of the law.
yes, then this thing is serious. But we also urge people at a lower level, let leaders also cajole people, talk to people nicely, show people where the problem is and why we need to preserve ourselves.
All right, and of course there is the question of how prepared counties are, and we have the Council of Governors Chairman Wycliffe Oparanya advising that they, as the governors, are going to advise the president against restrictions in movement and locking down or partial lockdowns. And according to him, he says people are just beginning to regain their momentum when it comes to building up the economy. Of course, with the transport sector opened, with people able to do business between counties and movement generally being allowed. But this, of course, leaves it at a very, very tight balance. It's literally walking a tightrope, because you leave it open and we continue to see the spread. Closed down and we do not have an economy that can support people. This leaves the president, of course, between a very a rock and a hard place, so to speak.
I think the creator of the universe says you know them by their fruits. I beseech the president not to listen to the likes of Oparanya, the chairman of Council of Governors. You saw the way he was behaving, meeting people and talking all sorts of irrelevancies when people are dying. If that is the fellow you are going to listen to, whether or not to put restrictions, then you are equally doomed. You listen to serious people who by their own conduct, you see, they are concerned about the lives of Kenyans. If the president was to say, I officially declare Kenya COVID-free, and people will just move, we will move and still continue dying. So the governors are talking about economy and they want the money. What they want is the money and they want to do politics. The president should listen to experts, not elected people, experts, and then it takes the interest of the country at heart. That would require that some measures are put in place. We may expand the economy. The American economy is the largest, but they are dying. We may be dead. You may come and be dead before you enjoy that economy. Let things work basically for the essential areas. Otherwise, the others, like children in the houses, why would they come around and be allowed to loiter and continue spreading, yet they're not going to school? So I urge the president, please don't listen to these governors. Some of them have been given small counties to manage. They have been defeated, just jumping all over. So can they teach us how the country should run in a crisis? No, Your Excellency, we have given you experts all over. Those are the ones you listen to. If they say you want restrictions, go ahead. Don't listen to Oparanya and some of his people.
All right, and let me take this opportunity to also welcome Honorable Joe Mtambo, who now joins us as we continue with the newspaper review. Welcome, sir, and good morning. And to what we're talking about is what you feel possibly the president needs to do. And let me just bring to your attention an article on the Nation, which says a scandal of 42 counties that cannot handle coronavirus. And according to this article, there's some counties who even went to the extent of lying that they have 300 beds ready, which was meant to be a minimum, which they do not. Your thoughts on possibly what the president may need? He needs to make a decision today, or at least give us guidance as a country as to how we move forward, given the number of cases that we've seen turning positive.
Good morning, and sorry for being a bit late. Let me agree with my good friend Abros. Counties were not able to manage other things. How are they going to handle the issue of COVID? I would not advise the president to listen to any single governor because none of them is a professional. The reason why we have professionals advising us is because they know the real status of this pandemic. Governors are busy campaigning. Some of them are trying to secure their second term. Others are busy trying to secure either a position in the cabinet come 2022 because their term is expiring. And the president will be wasting a lot of time when he engages with the governors because they are not able. This is a devolved function, yes. I mean, health is a devolved function. But by the look of things, they have not been able to do nothing much, even in the previous years. For the last 7 years, the governors have been fighting the same government. Who is going to import what equipment? Who is going to do what? Who is going to hire? Doctors have been crying since the services has been devolved. There's no doctor who has not cried to the public that we have not been paid, we have not been this has not been done to us. So how do you expect, or how do you draw back the same big or huge task to governors to advise you on the way forward? Yet themselves, they are not observing the simple protocols which have been set put in place by the expert. Again, allow me to say this. It is very true that governors used to lie that they have 300 beds. I can give you a case study where I know a county, a governor paraded went to the dispensaries, collected some beds to parade, to show the media that they have 300 beds. And when the minister left, Butaikago left, the beds were taken back to the... So is this preparedness or is just lying to ourselves? You know, the worst thing is for people to lie to themselves. You can lie to other people, but to lie to yourself, it's not a right thing. So this is what is happening. I would beseech the president, don't listen to what you're being told by any governor, because there's no single governor who has a clue. And if there is, I would want to meet him.
Which would be very unfortunate, because governors, of course, have been given the responsibilities of the counties and would expect them to have the heartbeat of those counties and be able to advise the president. But there you go. Talking of governors, there's also an article on page 5 of the Daily Nation. Sonko in new bid to pull out the deal with state on running the city. Let me start with you, Weda, particularly from a legal perspective. We do know that the governor, we saw, a ceremony where he signed off certain responsibilities to the national government, and this paved way for the NMS, the Nairobi Metropolitan Service. But the governor has now turned and said that this was illegal, and he wants to completely nullify that. Does he have a legal standing to do this?
Yes, the governor has a legal standing, even the way we have said before, the way the agreement was done and all these things, he would have a legal standing. But Nairobi is bigger than the governor's legal standing. He himself, he got it all wrong. And this thing, what he gave was just a key, a clue. And that clue he has given is gone. Nairobi is not going back to Governor Sonko. There will be a abracadabra to ensure he is out. And if he pushes very hard, then there will be other things. Otherwise, we want to see roads doing, the Nairobi Metropolitan working very hard and so on. So he may talk about law, he'll talk about it, and as a lawyer, I think there should be total respect for law and court orders. But in respect of Sonko and Nairobi, we are praying very hard for him to stay out. Whether he went to State House and was given Chivas Regal or some other foreign drink and he was drunk, that is his funeral. Whether he is a governor not going to the office or in the office, there is water which has passed under the bridge, and there is a race, and we see transformation taking place. The roads are being paved, order is coming. Governor Sonko, this one, we are not, some of us are not with you. I really sympathize because some parts of the law are with you. But because of what is going on, kuna. So you made that mistake of going to that place. If you drank something there, too bad for you. But you gave us a limb. We are clinging on it, and we will cling on it up to 2022.
Right. Honorable Mtambo, your thoughts on whether, first of all, Nairobi County is improving with the new sheriff in town, and possibly what Governor Sonko needs to do maybe is just let go.
Improving or not improving, The issue is, what did Songo do? He shot himself on the hip, and now he's crying. Songo is a very good friend of mine, and I was not expecting him to make this kind of a mistake, because for him, before he rushed to sign this deed, he could have consulted. He has friends whom he could have discussed with them. He has good lawyers whom he could have discussed and seek opinion. He has a counter assembly which he could have sat down with them, because not everybody could have been drunk the way he's saying. Some of his friends who are around him, they don't take alcohol, and they could have been sober and tell him, Governor, don't sign this or sign this. So to me, I don't take the excuse of I was given alcohol in State House as an excuse. Why now you want to take the services back? He started on a wrong foot, and it will go wrong for him. It will not be business as usual in Nairobi.
Okay.
Things have changed, whether Governor Sonko likes it. We would want him to take position, to take his position as an elected governor for Nairobi County. But now he missed it. He gave it himself. We saw him flashing those deeds, and he did it. So there's no way of going back.
Okay, and this will be continued also in the next segment, and maybe get into the nitty-gritties. And also, it will be good to hear from Nairobians, particularly what you feel needs to be the way forward. But also on page 8, church attendance remains low as many opt to follow services online. Canon Weda, as a canon, I'm sure you probably would be a very good position to tell us what you feel on where we are today. We did have quite a number of religious leaders coming out to make it clear that they wanted to go back to church, but it looks like the faithful still feel a little bit of time needs to be given before they can go back to church.
Yes, personally, luckily I have a chapel in my home, and we are praying regularly the way it is. But I think the main thing that the King of Kings tells us is seek wisdom. It is the principal thing. Of all you are seeking, get understanding. Proverbs 4:7. He says what destroys us is not lack of prayer or fasting or whatever, but ignorance. Hosea 4:6. The wisdom of the time today, from our prophets that we call the doctors and researchers, the knowledge we have accumulated since the Wuhan outbreak up to today, requires that we keep social distancing, we avoid crowds, and so on and so forth. It has worked in China. They may not be Christians, but it has worked for them, because the rules that the King of Kings has set works for everybody. So for now that the Holy Spirit is in us and the church is in our hearts, the gathering of the saints, wisdom dictates that we wait. I myself, as canon in the Anglican Church, born again and again, I will wait. Faith without wisdom is death in the waiting. It is foolishness. So imagine even the church leaders who are condemning the president and doing all sorts of this, it is not according to the scriptures, because the scripture says wisdom. The wisdom now requires distancing. Many things. Let's obey these things. We shall overcome together if we do it the right way. But if we test God, if we test gravity, you break your leg.
All right. Mtambo, your thoughts?
I want to tell the pastors and the reverend and those who are urging people to go to church. It is the same Bible which they read, which says, do not test your God. So they are trying to test God, whether if we come along, many people, will we get this COVID or not. So they should follow the protocols which have been given out by the expert, because this is not an easy thing. This is a serious matter which must be taken very, very seriously. And I don't think they are reading their Bible well, because there's somewhere in the Bible where I remember somebody told Jesus, just say a word and my servant will be healed. That faith, if you have faith, you can pray from wherever you are. Because the same Bible, again, allow me to remind them, I'm not a pastor and I'm not a canon, but it still says, where there are 2 or 3 conferred for my name, I'm inside there. So even if you are 3 people, God is listening to you. God does not listen to the mammoth. God listens to what is coming out from your heart. So this is my advice to them. Following protocols is very important, because if you have all these people come tomorrow to your church, they all get infected, they die, who are you going to preach tomorrow? So it is important to keep what we are being taught and to keep distance.
Okay, it is now 7:30 and it's time for us to take a short break. I'd like us to take a short break, but do stay with us. When we come back, we look at the way it is right here on Morning Express. A quick reminder of that question: should the president reimpose some of the COVID-19 containment measures that had been lifted? Let us know what your thoughts are. We take that break and we will see you on the other side of the break.
This is KTN News.